Welcome, Gunrunner.
Over the years, including a built-in game with your console has become a key gimmick of hardware manufacturers. In fact, the process of including a game within the system's ROM is something that goes right back to the very beginning of the industry, as you'll go on to find out. It's actually quite surprising that this feature wasn't used more often over the years, as I'm sure it saves companies lots of money by not having to include a cartridge, and surely the idea of getting a free game within your console was a big draw for consumers too. So for this video I've come up with a list of 10 different consoles that all included built-in games, that we will look at in chronological order along with the games that made them famous.
What does your family do on those stay indoors rainy afternoons, or on those cold, blustery winter days?
To start off this story, we need to return to the very start of home gaming. In fact, the very first home console full stop, the Magnavox Odyssey. Developed by the godfather of gaming himself, the one and only Ralph Baer, the Magnavox Odyssey would be unleashed on an unsuspecting audience in 1972. The console featured a strange paddle-like controller and could play a series of interchangeable games, which was nothing short of revolutionary at the time. I don't use the term cartridges here because they didn't feature ROM chips or indeed any actual code for that matter. These modules contained a series of switches and jumpers that changed the circuit in the console itself to play a different type of game. This means that the entire library of 28 games is basically built into the console, with the circuit cards just telling the console what to display.
For playing your favorite Odyssey game. Odyssey is played through an unused VHF channel of your television set. It operates on 6 common-size C-cell batteries, which come packed with the unit. Simply connect the game cord to the antenna game switch on the back of the set and to the master control unit. And plug the player control unit cords into their respective sockets on the master unit. And your Odyssey is ready to begin entertaining your family. Each Odyssey game uses one of these special game cards, which plug into a slot at the front of the master control unit. The game cards activate lights on your television screen that bounce, float, or extinguish on contact, depending upon the particular game you've chosen to play. For example, to play Odyssey Tennis, you insert game card number 3 into the master unit. This activates 3 lights, 2 representing the players and 1 representing the ball. Press the special tennis game overlay into position on the television screen, and you're ready to begin an exciting, fast-paced tennis game.
Hitting the market in 1976, the Channel F, the F stood for fun, yes really, was the very first console to use interchangeable ROM cartridges, truly sealing its place in history. It also presents the first example of a game built into the system's ROM. Turn the console on without a cartridge plugged in, you could play not just one but 2 different games, twice the fun. On offer was tennis and hockey, which were both slightly more advanced Pong clones. In hockey, the player's paddle could be changed to different angles by simply twisting the controller, and it also allowed you to move your paddle all over the playing field too. Tennis was a lot less exciting, playing pretty much the same as the original version of Pong. In 1977, Bally Midway watched as their biggest arcade rival Atari one-upped them by releasing a home console in the form of the Atari Video Computer System. The Chicago-based company looked over with envious eyes and knew that they could come up with something better. And they certainly did, as just a year later we saw the debut of the Bally Professional Arcade, later renamed the Astrocade, a home console that was based on their tried and tested arcade hardware. Superb conversions of games like Wizard of War, Galaxian and Space Invaders proved this superiority, with the console having the edge in terms of audio, sprites, memory and expandability. They also won up to the Atari 2600 by including built-in software. I say software and not games because, as well as the excellent Gunfight, which was a conversion of their own arcade game, was Checkmate, another coin-op conversion and one of the many variations of the famous Tron Light Cycle sequence, as well as a calculator and a very simple art program. Doesn't get much better than that. Developed by Smith Engineering back in 1982 and then subsequently licensed to General Consumer Electronics, who were then taken over by the famous Milton Bradley Toy Company shortly afterwards, the Vetrix was the first and only home console to use vector graphics, and also the first to have a built-in screen. It also has one of the best examples of a built-in game too, in the form of the excellent Mindstorm. This was GCE's attempt to replicate Atari's Asteroids, and provided true arcade quality action for 1 or 2 players. Unfortunately, they later discovered that the version of the game included in the ROM contained a bug that caused it to crash at level 13, though most people never got this far so didn't spot it. Those that did could complain to Milton Bradley and get a free fixed version of the game on cartridge called Mindstorm 2. In 1986, just a year after the ColecoVision had been officially discontinued, a Taiwanese company called Bit Corporation, who, at the time, were best known for their range of bootleg Atari 2600 games, created a clone of the console called the Dina 2-in-1. Originally created as an illegal copy of the ColecoVision for Asian markets, it was also able to play games from the hardware similar Sega SG-1002, hence the 2-in-1 part of the name. The console also included an exclusive built-in game called Meteoric Shower, which would later be released for the ColecoVision separately. This was basically a clone of Namco's Galaxian with an added gimmick. Aliens attacked from above and below, and you could change the direction of your ship to combat this. The Dina 2-in-1 was also released in Europe and North America as the Telegames Personal Arcade, with the same built-in game. Both versions of the console are now very rare and highly sought after. First released in 1986, the original model of Sega's popular Master System presents an interesting example for this list. That's because all models had a built-in game that was never actually publicised by Sega and could only be accessed via a secret code. This was of course the now legendary Snail game. Later models of the Master System 1 also saw the two original pack-in games, Hang On and Safari Hunt, moved into the system's ROM, essentially giving owners a choice between three built-in games. Hang On was of course a pretty spiffy conversion of the popular Sega arcade game, and Safari Hunt was an original title designed for the Light Phaser that was created to compete with Nintendo's Duck Hunt and their Zapper Gun. The Master System continued with built-in games for its next iteration too, as you'll discover later on in this video. The very first console to offer backwards compatibility out of the box, the Atari 7800 Pro system was originally released to limited markets in 1984, before a proper North American release in 1986 under the stewardship of Jack Tramiel. The NTSC version of the console came bundled with Pole Position 2 on cartridge, but the Sunnyvale based company had very different ideas for the Power Revision that hit shelves the year after in 1987. As well as changing the looks of the console itself by updating the iconic silver strip, they also decided to include the excellent Asteroids Deluxe in the system's ROM. Swapping out the horrible Proline joysticks for slimline joypads also made this much easier to play. The iconic vectors were changed to full colour rasters, and they also added in an amazing simultaneous two-player mode too. The Atari 7800 edition of Asteroids was certainly a very welcome addition to an already great setup. In 1987, Atari came up with a clever idea to help shift their huge stockpiles of Atari 8-bit game cartridges. They created a console version of the new 65XE computer that offered up all the power of a home micro as well as the fun of a console, with great games, a compact design and even a light gun. It was an attractive proposition to parents looking for a system that could combine the need for both a serious computer and a console for kids. The XE game system is often described as nothing more than a 65 XE computer in a fancy console case. But look at the hardware a little bit closer and you'll find one very key difference: a built-in game. Yes, the ZX includes the excellent Atari 8-bit port of Missile Command in the system ROM. You can even hook up an Atari trackball to get the true arcade experience. A great way to get started with your new system. I said the Sega Master System would be back for more, didn't I? And here it is with the Master System 2. The redesigned version of the console was launched in 1990 to better fit alongside the looks of its little brother, the Sega Mega Drive, and was very much aimed at a younger budget conscious market. The smaller form factor saw the removal of several key features such as the Sega card slot and the RGB out socket, but didn't lose the built-in game. However, Sega did choose to update this, including just one title in the form of the highly acclaimed Alex Kidd in Miracle World. In fact, the game's inclusion within the ROM of the Master System 2 is the main reason the game is still so fondly remembered today. And before you start shouting at the screen, I'm not quite done with the 8-bit Sega just yet. Yes, I'm sure you've already called this. The later revision of the Sega Master System 2 swapped out one iconic mascot game for another, replacing Alex Kidd in Miracle World with the superb SMS edition of Sonic the Hedgehog. Some like to argue that Master System Sonic is even better than the Mega Drive original. Not a view I share, I may add, but there's no doubting what an excellent game it is, and it's arguably the best built-in game to be included in a console. It's a shame Sega didn't choose to continue the built-in game tradition into the 16-bit era too, with the Mega Drive and Genesis. And that rounds up my look at 10 consoles with built-in games. Can you think of any other systems that feature built-in games that I've left out? Or which console do you think had the best built-in game, and what are your memories of it? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Mitchell Valentino, Neptune, Seth A. Robinson, Carl Olsen, Dos Gamerman, Nathan Davino, Diago Piera dos Santos Silva, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now. You can get access to host for extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.